It was supposed to be just another shift on the edge of nowhere, a tired old mining crew carving out ore in silence. But when the signal came, raw, panicked, and alien, we listened. Because humans remember what it means to scream into the void and be ignored. And this time, someone answered, not with mercy, but with fire. First contact protocol broken. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the mining vessel, Iron Will, watching the endless expanse of space through reinforced windows. The ship had been her home for 8 years, cutting through asteroid fields and extracting precious metals from the cold void. Her crew of 23 had become like family, each person vital to their survival in the harsh environment of deep space mining. The Iron Will was not a beautiful ship. Built for function over form, it bristled with mining equipment, ore processors, and the massive industrial tools needed to crack open asteroids. Its hull was scarred from countless encounters with space debris, and its engines roared with the rough efficiency of pure power over elegance. But Elena loved every dented plate and every rattling bolt. Chief Engineer Marcus Chen approached her station, wiping grease from his hands with a dirty rag. His family had been engineers for generations, and he could make any machine sing with proper maintenance and creative modifications. Marcus had joined the crew 5 years ago, and his innovations had increased their mining efficiency by 40%. "Captain, we're picking up something strange on the long-range sensors," Marcus said, his voice carrying a note of confusion. "It's not a natural signal." Dr. Sarah Mitchell looked up from her research station where she had been cataloging mineral samples. As the ship's xenobiologist and communications expert, she was responsible for analyzing any signs of alien life they might encounter. Though they had never found any living creatures in their years of mining, Sarah remained hopeful that first contact would someday happen. "What kind of signal are we talking about?" Elena asked, moving to examine Marcus's sensor readings. Navigator Lisa Park, the youngest member of their senior crew, pulled up detailed readings on her computer. At 26, she had already proven herself to be a brilliant strategist and had an intuitive understanding of space navigation that impressed even veteran spacers. "It's artificial, Captain," Lisa reported. "The mathematical patterns are too complex to be natural phenomena. Someone is broadcasting this intentionally." Pilot Jake Thompson joined the group gathering around the sensor station. Jake had served in the military for 12 years before joining the mining crew, seeking a quieter life among the stars. His friends called him Reaper because of his uncanny ability to navigate dangerous situations and bring everyone home alive. "Could be a trap," Jake warned, his military training making him naturally suspicious. "Pirates sometimes use fake distress signals to lure mining ships into ambushes." Dr. Mitchell was already working on her translation computers, feeding the alien signal into her linguistic analysis programs. "This isn't human, Captain. The signal structure suggests a completely different language family. We might be looking at genuine alien communication." Elena felt her heart rate increase. In all her years of space travel, she had dreamed of this moment. Humanity had been exploring space for over a century, finding dead worlds and ancient ruins, but never living alien civilizations. The possibility that they were receiving humanity's first alien message was both thrilling and terrifying. "Can you translate it, Sarah?" Elena asked. "Give me 20 minutes, Dr. Mitchell replied, her fingers flying over her keyboard. "The signal is repeating, which suggests it's meant to be understood by anyone who receives it. That should make translation easier." While Sarah worked on decoding the message, Marcus ran detailed scans of their surroundings. "Captain, the signal is coming from a star system about 6 light-years from here. Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures in that system." Lisa pulled up star charts and navigation data. "That's the Kepler 442 system. Our databases show it has 3 planets, but we've never conducted detailed surveys there." She paused, taking a deep breath. "I won't lie to you. If we respond to this call, we'll probably die. The Iron Will wasn't built for war and we're not trained soldiers, but right now we might be the only hope these people have." Mining specialist Tom Rodriguez raised his hand. "Captain, what if we transmit their message back to Earth? The military could send real warships." "That signal would take 12 years to reach Earth," Dr. Mitchell replied, "and another 12 years for any help to arrive. These people will be dead within days." Chief Medical Officer Dr. James Walsh stood up. "Captain, I took an oath to save lives. I can't live with myself knowing I could have helped and chose not to." One by one, crew members began to speak. Some talked about their duty as human beings to help others in need. Others admitted they were terrified but couldn't abandon innocent people to genocide. A few argued that it was pointless to sacrifice their lives in an unwinnable battle. When everyone had spoken, Elena called for a vote. "All in favor of responding to the distress call?" 21 hands went up. Only 2 crew members voted against the rescue mission. Elena felt a mixture of pride and terror. Her crew was willing to face impossible odds to save strangers from another world. It was exactly the kind of selfless courage that made her proud to be human, and exactly the kind of heroic gesture that would probably get them all killed. "Then it's decided," Elena said. "We set course for the Kelari system immediately. Everyone, prepare for combat operations. I know we're not warriors, but we're going to have to learn fast." As the crew filed out to prepare the ship, Elena remained behind with her senior officers. Marcus was already sketching modifications to their mining equipment, while Jake was reviewing what little tactical information they had about Zephon military doctrine. "Elena," Dr. Mitchell said quietly, "I've been monitoring alien communication networks while working on the translation. Word of our mission is already spreading among the few alien species in this region. Some are calling us insane. Others are calling us the first people crazy enough to challenge Zephon expansion." "What does that mean for us?" Elena asked. "I'm not sure yet," Sarah replied, "but I think we're about to find out what happens when humans get involved in galactic politics." 6 hours later, the Iron Will jumped into hyperspace, heading toward a war they couldn't win to save people they had never met. None of them knew that their desperate rescue mission would become the catalyst for the greatest military upset in galactic history, or that the name Deathworlder would soon strike fear into the hearts of tyrants across the stars. As they traveled through hyperspace toward the Kelari system, Elena stood on the bridge watching the swirling energies outside their ship. In 18 hours, they would drop back into normal space and face an enemy fleet that had never been defeated. She thought about the alien message, about the children hiding in shelters while their world burned above them. Elena had no idea how 23 humans with mining equipment were supposed to fight 300 alien warships, but she knew they had to try. After all, that's what humans did when faced with impossible odds. They tried anyway. Mining tools become weapons of war. The Iron Will dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kelari system, and Captain Elena Vasquez immediately understood why no species had ever challenged the Zephon Empire. The sight before them was overwhelming beyond comprehension. Over 300 alien warships filled the space around a beautiful blue-green planet. Massive dreadnoughts the size of city blocks hung in perfect military formation, while smaller cruisers and destroyers moved in coordinated patterns that spoke of centuries of military discipline. Swarms of fighter craft moved between the larger vessels like deadly insects, their purpose clear and terrifying. The planet below was already dying. Bright flashes of light marked where orbital bombardments were striking the surface, and even from their distant position, the human crew could see vast cities being reduced to ash and flame. The systematic destruction of an entire civilization was happening before their eyes. Navigator Lisa Park guided the Iron Will carefully behind a large asteroid belt that ringed the outer edge of the system. The mining vessel was small enough to hide among the floating rocks, but Elena knew their concealment wouldn't last long if the enemy came looking. "My God," whispered Dr. Sarah Mitchell as she stared at the tactical displays. "How are we supposed to fight that?" Jake was studying tactical displays, his military experience making him think about potential threats. "Those energy signatures Marcus mentioned could be weapons fire. If there's a battle happening in that system, we need to be very careful about how we approach." 25 minutes later, Dr. Mitchell looked up from her computer with a pale face. She had successfully translated enough of the alien message to understand its meaning, and what she had discovered was both heartbreaking and terrifying. "Captain, you need to hear this," Sarah said, pressing a button to play the translated message through the bridge speakers. A computer voice began speaking, converting the alien sounds into understandable words. "This is Research Director Kael of the Kelari Science Collective. Our world is under attack by the Zephon Empire. They came to our system with hundreds of warships, demanding our surrender. We are a peaceful people with no military forces. We have tried to negotiate, but they are destroying our cities and killing our population. This message is broadcast to anyone who might receive it. Please, if there is anyone out there who can help us, we are dying. Our children are hiding in underground shelters while our world burns above them. We do not have weapons to fight back. We do not know how to wage war. If any civilization receives this message, please help us. We are running out of time." The bridge fell silent. Elena felt a cold weight settle in her stomach as she processed what they had just heard. Somewhere in space, an entire alien civilization was being wiped out while calling desperately for help that might never come. "How long has this signal been broadcasting?" Elena asked. Marcus checked his readings. "Based on the signal degradation and transmission lag, I estimate about 4 hours. The signal is also getting weaker, which suggests their broadcasting equipment is being damaged or destroyed." Jake shook his head grimly. Captain, we're a mining ship. We have industrial equipment and basic defensive systems, but we're not built for combat. If there's an entire invasion fleet in that system, we'd be flying into a massacre. Dr. Mitchell had been researching the names mentioned in the alien message. I've been checking our databases for any references to the Zephon Empire. I found some mentions in the ancient alien ruins we discovered on Titan 7. According to those records, the Zephon are a militaristic species that conquers other worlds for resources and slave labor. How big are their fleets? Elena asked. The record suggests they use overwhelming force, Sarah replied. Hundreds of ships for major conquests. They've been expanding across this region of the galaxy for over 800 years, and no one has ever successfully resisted them. Navigator Lisa pulled up tactical projections on her screen. If the records are accurate, we're looking at a fleet of 300 or more warships, our mining vessel against an entire armada. Elena looked around at her crew. These were good people who had signed up to mine asteroids and explore space, not fight impossible wars against alien empires. She had no right to ask them to throw their lives away on a hopeless rescue mission, but she also couldn't ignore the desperate pleas for help coming from the Kelari system. The thought of an entire civilization being exterminated while she stood by and did nothing made her feel sick. I'm calling a crew meeting, Elena announced. Everyone to the main conference room in 15 minutes. We're going to decide this together. The conference room was packed with all 23 crew members. Elena stood at the front of the room and looked at the faces around her. Some looked scared, others determined, but all of them were waiting to hear what their captain had to say. You've all heard the alien distress call by now, Elena began. An entire species is being wiped out while we listen. According to our databases, no one in this region of space has ever been willing to fight the Zephon Empire because their fleets are too powerful. Chief Engineer Marcus Chen was already studying the enemy ships through their telescopes, his analytical mind working on the problem. Captain, these vessels are impressive, but I'm seeing some interesting patterns. Their formations are very rigid, and their ship designs prioritize heavy armor and massive weapons over maneuverability. What does that mean for us? Elena asked. It means they're designed to fight other military fleets using conventional tactics, Marcus replied. They expect their enemies to engage them in traditional ship-to-ship combat, where superior firepower wins. They're not prepared for something completely different. Pilot Jake Thompson was monitoring enemy communications while Dr. Mitchell worked on translation. Sarah's got their basic military language figured out. The commanding officer is someone called Fleet Admiral Corvex, operating from that massive ship in the center of their formation. What are they saying about us? Elena asked. That's the interesting part, Sarah replied. They don't seem to know we're here yet, but I did pick up something else from their military databases. They have humans classified as Deathworlders in their threat assessment files. Mining specialist Tom Rodriguez looked confused. What's a Deathworlder? Dr. Mitchell pulled up her research files. From what I can gather, it's their classification for species that evolved on extremely dangerous planets. High gravity, predatory ecosystems, extreme weather, constant environmental threats. They consider such species to be naturally more aggressive and resourceful than typical civilizations. So they know about Earth? Elena asked. They know about humanity, but they've never fought us before, Sarah explained. According to their records, Deathworlder species are rare and usually avoid galactic politics. The Zephon have conquered hundreds of worlds, but never one populated by Deathworlders. Suddenly, Communications Officer Lisa Chen's equipment lit up with activity. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the planet's surface. It's weak and breaking up, but it's definitely using the same language as the distress call. Put it through, Elena ordered. The speakers crackled with static. Then an alien voice came through. Dr. Mitchell's translation computer worked to convert the words into English. Unknown vessel, this is Research Director Kyle. We detected your arrival in our system. Are you here to help us? Elena took the communications microphone. Research Director Kyle, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the human mining vessel Iron Will. We received your distress call and came to help. There was a long pause before the reply came. Humans. We have heard legends of your species. The galactic databases speak of Deathworlders who refuse to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Is this true? Elena looked around at her crew. None of them felt particularly deadly or heroic. They were miners and scientists, not warriors, but they were here, weren't they? We're here to help, was all she said. Over the next 2 hours, Research Director Kyle transmitted everything the Kelari had learned about their attackers. The Zephon Empire relied on overwhelming numerical superiority and standardized military doctrine. They had never lost a major battle because they crushed their enemies with superior firepower before tactics could matter. They've never fought anyone who refused to play by their rules, Kale explained through the static-filled transmission. Most species either surrender immediately when they see a Zephon invasion fleet, or they try to match them ship for ship in conventional combat. Both approaches always fail. Marcus was studying the technical data on his computer. Captain, these ship designs are optimized for fighting other military vessels. Heavy armor, massive energy weapons, but they're not very maneuverable. They expect to win through raw firepower, not flexibility or innovation. Elena began to see the outline of a plan forming in her mind. What about their command structure? Very rigid hierarchy, Dr. Mitchell reported after analyzing hours of Zephon communications. All major decisions come from Fleet Admiral Corvex on the flagship. Individual ship captains have very little independence or initiative. So if we could disrupt their communications or confuse their command structure, Jake said, understanding where Elena's thoughts were leading. It might cause chaos in their ranks, Elena finished, but we're still talking about one mining ship against 300 warships. Even with perfect tactics, the numbers don't add up. Marcus had been sketching modifications to their systems while they talked. Captain, what if we don't fight like a military ship? What if we use every piece of equipment on this vessel in ways it was never designed for? What do you have in mind? Elena asked. Asymmetric warfare, Marcus replied, his engineer's mind racing with possibilities. We turn our mining equipment into weapons. We use the asteroid belt as our ammunition supply. We fight like humans from a death world, not like a conventional space navy. Mining specialist Rodriguez was already nodding with understanding. Our asteroid breakers could be modified to accelerate rocks to incredible velocities, turn the whole belt into a kinetic weapons platform. Engineer Kate Murphy joined the planning session. I can rig our plasma cutters to function as ship-to-ship weapons. They're designed to slice through solid rock. Alien armor shouldn't be much different. Our ore processors generate massive electromagnetic fields, added systems specialist David Kim. We could use them to create interference pulses that might disrupt their electronics. Elena felt the first spark of hope since arriving in the system. Her crew wasn't thinking like military strategists. They were thinking like miners and engineers, looking at their tools and environment as resources to be exploited. Do it, Elena ordered. All of you. Turn this mining ship into something the galaxy has never seen before. For the next 8 hours, the Iron Will became a hive of desperate activity. Marcus and his engineering team worked to modify their asteroid breakers into kinetic accelerators. Rodriguez and his mining specialists prepared charges throughout the asteroid belt, turning floating rocks into guided missiles. Dr. Mitchell established communication links with Kelari resistance groups across the planet. Meanwhile, aboard the Zephon flagship Dominator, Fleet Admiral Corvex was reviewing the progress of the planetary conquest. The Kelari had proven disappointingly easy to defeat. Their technology was advanced, but they had no military tradition and little capacity for violence. Admiral, reported his intelligence officer, our sensors detected a brief energy signature at the edge of the system several hours ago. It appeared to be a small vessel entering from hyperspace. Admiral Corvex barely looked up from his battle reports. Probably refugees fleeing the system. These peaceful species often scatter when their homeworld is attacked. Ignore it. Should we send scouts to investigate? Don't waste resources on irrelevant contacts, Corvex replied dismissively. Focus on completing the planetary bombardment. High Command wants this world ready for colonization within the week. Back on the Iron Will, the final preparations were complete. Marcus had successfully converted their mining equipment into weapons that could accelerate asteroids to devastating velocities. Rodriguez had planted charges throughout the belt that could turn ordinary rocks into guided projectiles. Murphy had boosted their plasma cutters to levels that would burn out the equipment after a few shots, but should be able to slice through Zephon armor. Positions, everyone, Elena ordered as they approached their attack window. Lisa, take us to attack position Alpha. Rodriguez, are the asteroid launchers ready? 12 rocks charged and ready to fly, Captain, Rodriguez replied. I've never tried anything like this before, but the physics should work. Murphy, status on our improvised weapons? Plasma cutters boosted to triple normal output, Murphy reported. They'll burn out quickly, but they should cut through alien hull plating like paper. I've also rigged our atmospheric processors to create electromagnetic pulse bursts. Elena took a deep breath. In her entire career, she had never given an order to attack anyone. The Iron Will was a ship of industry and exploration, not war, but sometimes miners had to become warriors. Chen, are you ready to coordinate with the Kelari resistance? Yes, Captain, Lisa Chen replied. Research Director Kale and his people are standing by to provide targeting data and create diversions when we begin our attack. Then let's show the galaxy what happens when you threaten people under human protection, Elena said. All hands, prepare for combat operations. The Iron Will emerged from behind a large asteroid, moving silently toward the outer edge of the Zephon formation. The alien warships were massive compared to the human mining vessel, but they were also following predictable patrol routes that made them perfect targets for unconventional weapons. Launching first wave, Rodriguez announced. 12 asteroids erupted from concealed positions throughout the belt, accelerated by human mining equipment to velocities that would have been impossible with conventional propulsion. They streaked toward the Zephon fleet like ancient artillery shells, but these projectiles carried the kinetic energy of falling meteors. The first asteroid struck a Zephon destroyer amidships. The alien ship's energy shields were designed to deflect plasma weapons and particle beams, not solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. The destroyer simply disintegrated, torn apart by forces its designers had never anticipated. 2 more asteroids found their targets before the Zephon fleet began to react. A cruiser lost its entire forward section while a frigate was knocked completely out of formation, spinning helplessly with its engines destroyed. "Impossible!" Admiral Korvex shouted as damage reports flooded his command center. "What kind of weapons are these?" "Sir, the projectiles appear to be natural asteroids accelerated to extreme velocities," reported his tactical officer. "We're detecting artificial propulsion systems attached to each one." "Who uses rocks as weapons?" Korvex demanded. "What kind of primitive species fights with stones?" His intelligence officer checked their databases frantically. "Sir, there's only one classification of species that consistently employs unconventional weapons and tactics. Deathworlders, sir. Species that evolved on high-gravity worlds with dangerous ecosystems." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Korvex felt genuine uncertainty. The Zephon Empire had built its success on overwhelming firepower and predictable enemy responses, but accelerated asteroids was not covered in any tactical manual. "All ships, spread formation and begin evasive maneuvers," Korvex ordered. "Locate the source of those projectiles and destroy it immediately." But the Iron Will was already moving to its next position, hidden among the asteroids like a predator stalking much larger prey. Jake Thompson piloted the ship through spaces too narrow for the massive Zephon vessels to follow, using the chaotic environment of the asteroid belt as both cover and weapon. "Second wave launching," Rodriguez announced. This time, 8 more asteroids streaked toward the scattered fleet. The aliens had spread their formation, but that just made them easier targets for weapons coming from multiple directions simultaneously. A Zephon heavy cruiser took 2 asteroid impacts within seconds of each other. Its armor plating, designed to resist energy weapons, crumpled like foil under the kinetic assault. The ship broke apart, its crew never understanding how simple rocks had destroyed their advanced technology. "Sir, we've lost 15 ships so far," reported the tactical officer to Admiral Korvex. "The enemy appears to be using the entire asteroid belt as a weapons platform." "Then destroy every asteroid in the system," Korvex snarled. "Turn them all to dust." "Sir, there are thousands of asteroids. It would take days to destroy them all, and we don't know which ones have been weaponized." Admiral Korvex realized he was facing something completely outside his experience. In hundreds of conquests, the Zephon had never encountered an enemy that turned their environment into ammunition. They had never fought anyone insane enough to use mining equipment as artillery. On the planet's surface, Research Director Kyle and the Kelari resistance fighters watched the battle in amazement through their underground sensors. "They're actually hurting the Zephon fleet," whispered one of his assistants. "The Deathworlders are fighting with rocks and winning." "Perhaps this is what makes them so dangerous," Kyle replied thoughtfully. "They don't fight the way civilized species fight. They use whatever is available and find ways to make it deadly." The Iron Will was now moving closer to the enemy formation, preparing for the next phase of their attack. Marcus had calculated that they could get one good pass with their modified plasma cutters before the aliens adapted to their tactics. "Take us in, Jake," Elena ordered. "Target that damaged cruiser. I want to see what our mining lasers can do against alien armor." "Captain, that'll put us within range of their weapons," Jake warned. "That's the idea," Elena replied. "They're expecting us to stay hidden and throw rocks. They won't be ready for us to charge straight at them." The Iron Will accelerated toward the wounded Zephon cruiser, its modified plasma cutters charging for combat. As they closed the distance, the alien ship's defensive systems finally detected the small human vessel. "Enemy ship approaching," announced the Zephon tactical officer. "It's tiny, but heading directly for us." The cruiser's weapon system swiveled to target the Iron Will, but Murphy had calculated their approach perfectly. As the alien defensive systems tried to lock on, she fired the boosted plasma cutters through a gap in their targeting pattern. The industrial cutting beams, never designed for combat but pushed far beyond safety limits, sliced through the Zephon cruiser's hull like a blade through paper. The alien ship's power systems overloaded and exploded, adding another impossible victory to the human assault. "Target destroyed," Murphy reported, amazement clear in her voice. "Captain, I can't believe that actually worked." "Believe it," Elena replied grimly. "We're just getting started. Jake, get us back to the asteroid field. We need to prepare for their counterattack." Admiral Korvex stared at his tactical display in disbelief. In less than 2 hours, a single unknown vessel had destroyed 23 ships from his invasion fleet using weapons that shouldn't exist and tactics that defied military logic. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving transmissions from the planetary surface. The Resistance is broadcasting on all frequencies." "What are they saying?" "They're calling the attackers human Deathworlders and claiming that salvation has arrived. Sir, I think the entire galaxy is going to hear about this battle." Korvex realized that more than ships were at stake. The reputation of Zephon invincibility was being shattered by a species that fought with rocks and mining equipment. If word spread that the mighty Zephon fleet could be defeated by a single mining vessel, every conquered world might rebel. "All ships converge on the asteroid belt," Korvex ordered. "I want that human ship found and destroyed, no matter the cost." As the massive Zephon fleet began moving toward their position, Elena knew the real battle was just beginning. They had proven that humans could hurt the alien invaders, but now they had to survive the counterattack. The Deathworlders had announced their presence to the galaxy, and the galaxy was starting to take notice. Total annihilation. Admiral Korvex stood before the tactical display aboard his flagship Dominator, watching red icons disappear from his fleet formation with growing rage and disbelief. In 12 hours of fighting, the mysterious human vessel had destroyed 47 Zephon warships using tactics that violated every principle of civilized warfare. "Sir, we've lost contact with Hunter Squadron investigating Sector 12, reported his tactical officer. "That makes 6 squadrons that have gone silent in the asteroid field." "How is one small ship destroying entire squadrons?" Korvex demanded, his voice echoing through the command center. "They can't have unlimited ammunition for those primitive rock throwers." "Sir, our surviving ships report that the humans aren't just using asteroids anymore," the officer replied nervously. "They're employing their industrial equipment in ways we've never encountered. Mining lasers boosted beyond safe parameters, atmospheric processors creating electromagnetic interference, even cargo drones modified as suicide weapons." Communications Officer Vex looked up from his station with growing alarm. "Admiral, we're also detecting coordinated attacks from the planetary surface. The Kelari resistance has become significantly more aggressive since the humans arrived." Korvex pulled up the surface battle reports on his screen. What he saw defied all military logic. The previously defeated Kelari were launching desperate attacks against Zephon ground forces using guerrilla tactics they had never demonstrated before. More disturbing, they were winning. Meanwhile, on the Iron Will, Captain Elena Vasquez was coordinating with resistance fighters across the Kelari homeworld. Dr. Sarah Mitchell had established communication networks that allowed real-time coordination between the human ship and alien freedom fighters. "Research Director KL, we need your people to target their supply depots while we hit the main fleet," Elena said into her communicator. "Can your fighters create enough of a distraction to draw ships away from orbit?" "Captain Vasquez, your courage has inspired our entire population," KL replied through the static. "Our people are no longer hiding in shelters. They are fighting back with tools and vehicles, using tactics your species has taught us through example. We can create the distraction you need." Elena turned to her exhausted crew. Chief Engineer Marcus Chen had dark circles under his eyes from working non-stop to keep their improvised weapons functioning. Mining Specialist Tom Rodriguez's hands were burned from handling overloaded equipment, but they were all still fighting with the desperate energy of people who refused to surrender. "Status report," Elena requested. "We're down to 4 operational asteroid launchers," Rodriguez reported. "The plasma cutters are holding up better than expected, but they're running extremely hot. I can give you maybe 6 more shots before they burn out completely." Navigator Lisa Park had proven exceptionally skilled at maneuvering through the asteroid field while under fire. "Captain, I've mapped 14 different escape routes through the belt, but the Zephon ships are starting to position squadrons at the exit points. They're learning our patterns." "They're adapting faster than I expected," Elena observed. "What about our communication with Earth?" Dr. Mitchell looked up from her modified transmitter array. I've been broadcasting continuously for the past 8 hours. Even if our message takes years to reach home, at least Earth will know what we discovered out here. Communications Officer Lisa Chen had been monitoring alien frequencies across multiple star systems. Captain, something interesting is happening. Our battle is being broadcast across the galaxy. Other alien species are starting to pay attention to what we're doing here. Elena felt a spark of hope. What kind of attention? I'm picking up communications from at least 6 different species, Chen reported. Some are expressing amazement that anyone would challenge the Zephon Empire. Others are starting to ask questions about human military capabilities. Suddenly, Chen's equipment registered multiple new hyperspace signatures appearing at the edge of the system. Captain, we have new contacts jumping in. Multiple ships, different configurations from the Zephon vessels. On the main screen, Elena watched as alien ships of various designs dropped out of hyperspace. Unlike the uniform military appearance of the Zephon fleet, these vessels showed the characteristics of different species and technologies. Dr. Mitchell was working frantically to translate the new communications. Captain, I'm getting messages from multiple species. The Torvan Republic, the Nexian Commonwealth, even some ships from the hegemony worlds, they're all asking the same question. Which is? They want to know if the reports about humans fighting the Zephon Empire are true, Sarah replied. Word has spread across the galaxy faster than I thought possible. Some of these species have been conquered by the Zephon before and managed to escape. Others have been living in fear of eventual invasion. Elena realized that their desperate rescue mission had become something much larger. What are they saying exactly? They're calling us the species that refuses to run, Dr. Mitchell translated. The Torvan captain is asking if we need assistance. The Nexians are requesting permission to join the battle. For the first time since arriving in the system, Elena felt genuine hope. Tell them yes. Tell them all yes. Within the next hour, the tactical situation in the Kelari system changed dramatically. Ships from 7 different alien species had arrived, drawn by reports of the impossible human resistance against Zephon tyranny. None of the individual fleets were large enough to challenge the Zephon armada alone, but together they represented a significant force. More importantly, they brought knowledge that the humans desperately needed. Captain Thex of the Torvan Republic ship Resilience was the first to establish direct communication with the Iron Will. The Torvans were a warrior species that had been fighting Zephon expansion for decades, winning just enough battles to maintain their independence. Human Captain, Thex's translated voice came through their speakers. We have studied Zephon tactics for generations. Their weakness is not in their ships or weapons, but in their inflexibility. They cannot adapt when faced with truly unexpected strategies. What do you suggest? Elena asked. Coordinate our attacks to maximize their confusion, Thex replied. Your asteroid bombardment has already disrupted their formations. If we strike from multiple directions simultaneously, their rigid command structure will collapse. Commander Zara of the Nexian Commonwealth added her voice to the growing alliance. Our ships carry quantum disruptors that can interfere with their communications. If we can isolate Admiral Corvex from his fleet, their individual captains will be unable to coordinate effectively. Elena was amazed at how quickly the alliance was forming. Species that had never worked together before were uniting around the simple principle that the Zephon Empire's reign of terror had to end. Research Director KL, Elena called down to the planet's surface. Are your people ready for the final assault? Captain Vasquez, our entire population is ready, KL replied with fierce determination. You have shown us that the Zephon can be defeated. Our children are no longer hiding in shelters. They are helping to coordinate attacks against occupation forces. The Zephon ground troops are being overwhelmed by civilian resistance they never expected. Elena looked around at her crew one final time. They had come so far from being simple miners and researchers. The past day had transformed them into something the galaxy had never seen before. Humans at war. All ships, this is Captain Vasquez of the human vessel Iron Will, Elena broadcast on all frequencies. Today we end the Zephon Empire's expansion into this region of space. Today we show the galaxy that bullies can be stopped when good people refuse to back down. The coordinated attack began with the Torvan ships striking the Zephon left flank while Nexian quantum disruptors severed communications between Admiral Corvex and half his fleet. At the same moment, the Iron Will launched its remaining asteroids at the enemy flagship, forcing the Admiral to focus on defense instead of command. But the real devastation came from an unexpected source. The various alien species had shared their technical knowledge with Marcus Chen and his engineering team, allowing them to create weapons that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Launching hybrid kinetic energy torpedoes, Rodriguez announced. The new weapons were asteroids wrapped in Torvan energy fields and guided by Nexian targeting systems. When they struck Zephon ships, they didn't just destroy them, they created massive explosions that damaged nearby vessels. Admiral Corvex watched in horror as his once invincible fleet began to disintegrate. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds were being destroyed by mining equipment and jury-rigged alien technology operated by species that should have fled in terror. All ships retreat to defensive formation around the flagship, Corvex ordered desperately. Concentrate all firepower on the human vessel. But his orders never reached most of his fleet. The Nexian quantum disruptors had created a communication dead zone that left individual Zephon captains isolated and confused. Without central coordination, the rigid Zephon military doctrine became a liability rather than an asset. Captain Thex of the Torven ship Resilience spoke with grim satisfaction as his weapons found their targets. This is what happens when the galaxy unites against tyranny. The Zephon relied on fear and isolation to maintain their power. Today, they face unity. Elena realized that the battle was turning into something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, the Zephon Empire was facing total defeat, not because they had been outgunned, but because they had been outthought and overwhelmed by species working together. Jake, take us in close to their flagship, Elena ordered. I want to use our remaining plasma cutters on Admiral Corvex's ship personally. Captain, that's the most heavily defended ship in their fleet, Jake warned. That's why we're going to hit it with everything we have, Elena replied. Marcus, can you give me one final burst of power from our cutting systems? I can overload everything we have left, Marcus replied grimly. It'll destroy our equipment, but the energy release should be enough to cut through their flagship's armor. The Iron Will accelerated toward the massive Zephon dreadnought, dodging defensive fire while allied ships provided covering attacks. As they closed the distance, Elena could see the alien flagship's weapons turning to track their approach. This is for every world you've destroyed, Elena said quietly, then louder. Fire everything. The concentrated beam from the Iron Will's overloaded system struck the Zephon flagship like a sword of pure energy. The industrial cutting equipment, pushed far beyond any safe operating parameters, delivered enough focused power to slice completely through the dreadnought's command section. Admiral Corvex had just enough time to realize that his 1,000-year empire was ending at the hands of miners and scientists before his flagship exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the entire system. With their command ship destroyed and their communications severed, the remaining Zephon vessels began to surrender or flee. The rigid military structure that had made them so effective in conventional warfare collapsed completely when faced with the chaos of truly asymmetric conflict. As the last Zephon ships jumped into hyperspace in panicked retreat, Elena found herself looking at something that had never existed before, a united fleet of free species working together as equals. Captain Vasquez, came Research Director Kael's voice from the planet's surface. Our sensors show that the last Zephon ground forces are surrendering. The occupation of our world is over. Elena felt tears running down her face as she realized what they had accomplished. They had saved an entire species from genocide, but more than that, they had created something new in the galaxy, proof that the strong could not simply prey upon the weak without consequence. Captain Thex's voice came through their speakers. Human Captain, the Torven Republic formally requests that your species consider joining a permanent alliance for mutual defense. What happened here today should never be allowed to happen again. Commander Zara of the Nexians added her agreement. The Commonwealth seconds this proposal. Together we can ensure that no empire ever again threatens peaceful worlds with impunity. Over the following hours, as repair crews worked to fix battle damage and medical teams treated the wounded, Elena found herself in the middle of historic negotiations. 7 different species were working together to establish what they decided to call the Galactic Defense Alliance, with humans serving as the founding coordinators. Dr. Mitchell was documenting everything for transmission back to Earth. Elena, do you realize what we've done? We came here to save one world, but we've changed the entire political structure of this region of space. Elena looked out at the mixed fleet of alien vessels working together to provide humanitarian aid to the Kelari homeworld. Ships that had never cooperated before were sharing medical supplies and technical expertise, united by their shared experience of standing up to tyranny. We did what humans do, Elena replied simply. We saw people who needed help and we helped them. Everything else just followed from that basic decision. 3 months later, the Iron Will finally returned to Earth, carrying news that would transform humanity's relationship with the galaxy. The mining vessel that had left to extract asteroids came home as the flagship of an interstellar alliance dedicated to protecting freedom throughout the stars. Elena stood on the bridge one final time, watching Earth grow larger in their viewport. Her crew had become legendary figures whose names would be remembered across multiple worlds, but they were still the same people who had heard a cry for help and decided to answer it. The galaxy had learned that humans were indeed Deathworlders, but not because they were naturally violent or aggressive. They were dangerous because they refused to abandon their principles even when facing impossible odds, and because they had the stubborn audacity to believe that right could triumph over might. The Zephon Empire never recovered from their defeat at Kelari. Word of their vulnerability spread across the galaxy, and within a year, every world they had conquered had successfully rebelled. The age of unopposed galactic tyranny was over, ended by a mining crew that refused to let innocent people die on their watch. And in the archives of the Galactic Defense Alliance, their founding document contained a simple principle that became known throughout the stars as the human doctrine. When someone calls for help, you answer. When someone threatens the innocent, you stand in their way. When someone says the odds are impossible, you prove them wrong. The Deathworlders had indeed brought total fleet annihilation to their enemies, but more importantly, they had brought hope to the galaxy.